Let's create a application that adds three numbers together, and we're going to use the if statement to do some real minor error checking. Okay, so I'm going to do a file new project, and I want Windows Form application, and I'll call this example summing three numbers if error checking. Guess I'm too wordy. Okay, let's say if error, and click OK. Okay, so I'm gonna shrink that down a little bit, and I'm gonna drop on three labels, drop on three text boxes. I'm gonna have a button that I click, and then I'll return the result into a label, but it has its own label. Okay, let me go ahead and highlight all those with my rectangular select. I held down my left mouse button and dragged and highlighted them all. And I'm going to change the font on all of them to a little bit bigger. See what 20 looks like. Yeah, 20 is probably about right. Then I click outside of that rectangular select to take the selection off. There we go. And line everything up. Won't spend a huge amount of time on it. Okay, so for this label, I want to come down to the text, and I want to choose the alphabetical so I can easily find the text. And it's number 1. This one will be number 2. This one will be number 3. The button will make it a little bit bigger, and I'll change it to say add. There we go. Change this to say answer. In this one, I'm going to set the visible property to false. So I come over here and change that to false. And so when I run it at first, let's take a look, see what I have. You see it's blank. Okay. Now I'm going to click the form one time and then change its text to say summing application. Now let's program the add button. And I'm just going to program it first, just our normal add them together and return the result, just so we see. Okay. So then I'm going to declare three numbers, N1, N2, N3, and I'll declare answer. Now N1 is going to equal to, and I can never remember which one it is. I think it's parse. I do int.parse. That'll convert what I bring into an integer. That's assuming we're working with integers. And then here, I'm going to refer to the text box. Well, before we do that, let's go rename them, so I can easily tell what they are, because this is currently text box 1. So let's come up, change the name of that. This will be TB underscore num1. This one I'll name TB for text box num2. And this one I'll name TB underscore num3. And my answer, that's going to be a label, so I'll do LB underscore answer. Okay, go back to my code. So you go back and forth these tabs. And I'm going to say TB num1 dot text. Now n2 is going to equal to int parse TB underscore num2 dot text. And n3 is going to equal to integer dot parse TB underscore num3 dot text. Now my answer is going to equal to n1 plus n2 plus n3. And then I'll return the answer. LB underscore answer dot text is equal to answer. Now realize that answer right now is an integer and text is a string. So we're going to do a dot to string. Okay, let's run this and see what we have. So put 3 in here, 4 in here, 5 in here, add them. And I didn't change my visible property. Okay, let's go change the visible property. LB underscore answer dot visible equals true. And run it again. Okay, so I got 3, 4, 5, and click add. And then we got 12. Oops, I meant to show up breaking. Okay, let's say I leave that blank. I put 2 and 3 here and click add. Comes up and gives us an error. Well, maybe instead of it breaking, if they leave it blank, we want to default a 0 in there, which kind of makes sense. So I'm going to click break here and do a debug, stop debugging. Okay, so I need to do some if statements. Okay, check to see if text boxes are blank. If so, put a 0 into them. Now, I can do this different ways. I could create a new variables called string. Let me do that just to really demonstrate what I'm doing. And I can remember if it's lowercase or uppercase. So just start typing, and you can pretty well figure it out. Okay, so I got S1, S2, and S3. So I'm going to bring in my TB underscore num1 dot text, put into S1. S2 is going to be TB underscore num2 dot text. And S3 is going to be equal to TB underscore num3. And I have no clue what I just did there. Okay, TB underscore num3 dot text. Well, we'll check now. If, and I do a beginning parentheses, TB. I always put beginning parentheses no matter what programming language I'm in. Some require it, some don't. Like I think Visual Basic doesn't require the parentheses around it. That way, when I switch back and forth between different programming languages, then I don't have to worry about does this one loud or not. Okay, now that returns our text. Now, if you do a dot, these are all the different things you can apply to a text. Now, specifically, you see there's trim, trim end, and trim start. I always, when I do a trim, I usually choose this first one. That'll trim spaces off at the beginning and at the end. Now, I'm not sure if it needs parentheses. Yes, it does. Closing parentheses. So if that's equal to, and equal, and then I'll put in quotations there, then N1 is going to equal to 0. Else, N1 will just be equal to the parts of that. Now, since I already brought in that text box, I don't even need to actually use that here. I could put S1 for my string. Okay, so now I got that code. Let me copy it. So this is going to change slightly for the other ones. I look forever for my home button. There it is. Okay. And Control C, and then come down to a blank line. And now I'm going to do a Control V just as soon as I hit the home again. So Control V. Enter one more time. Home. Control V. Okay, so that one's doing text box 1. That's my first number. This is my second number. So I'm going to change these to 2. Change that to N2. N2. And this will be N2. See if I changed all my numbers. Okay. Then this will be number 3. It's our third number. So I got 3 there, 3, 3, and 3. Well, I can get rid of these now. And I always like to make sure that everything aligns correctly. I think it helps you in programming. If you got very code that's very pleasing to read, then it's probably going to be very easy to debug, to work with. Okay, so let's run this, see what we get. Okay, so if I put 3 here, 4, 5, works just like before. Now if I leave this blank and push add, then it adds them as 9. Now if I come here and put spaces and click add, it still works because it trims this. The if you did not put the trim there, what would happen is it would be comparing number 1, the tb underscore num1.txt. It'd be comparing it to an empty string, and it's not an empty string. When I push 2 spaces over there, it's actually looks like that. Now that's what the trim does. When you do the trim, it gets rid of those spaces. So if anybody puts any spaces, it automatically gets rid of them, and then it's back to the empty set. But that's how we can use some very simple if-else statements to do some minor error checking. Now, of course, we haven't programmed everything here. We can still do a try exception to handle it. Well, how do you handle it if they put in floats? Because that obviously breaks it. Okay, so I'll click break, and then I'll click a little square here to stop debugging. But that's an example of some very basic error checking with an if statement. You do not want to put everything into a try except. Try except, I think, is a bad programming practice if you can avoid it. Because that's assuming you're going to go ahead and let the program break, and then you're going to handle it programmatically. Well, proactive programming is where you anticipate the conditions that might occur, like if they leave a blank and you want it to be equal to 0, then you can program that in. Some people go to the extremes of the try except.